All right. I hope it works because it didn't, but maybe it did. Anyways, let me pull up my notes. I should have done this first. I should have done this first. Where are my notes? Got them. All right. So, episode 2 of Something Got Me podcast. And this is not a great setup, but I really wanted to do something outdoors. And here we are doing something outdoors because it's summer. And I thought, what can my podcast look like that represents the season, which is green? But, anyways, episode 2, do wear your dirty laundry. Do it. Wear it proud. Wear that dirty laundry proud. The subheader is silence didn't make me nicer. It made me insufferable and lonely. Insufferable, I think, is subjective, and lonely is objective. Meaning, different people might say or not say that I'm insufferable, but lonely, I can objectively say that I feel. The idea being that the phrase we all kind of have learned and say maybe sometimes is don't air your dirty laundry to the public, to the outside, keep it in the family, keep it in your inner circle, and so forth. And what I've been pondering about lately is how it doesn't seem like that works. It seems like there's a negative consequence that we don't think about. My dog might make an appearance in one of these. I hear her cry. Anyways, so I wrote out the script. It's 5 pages long with a tiny bit of blurbs that I didn't write out yet. So those might exceed it into longer. But here we go. I hope you're recording. I say air your dirty laundry and wear it proud, for you don't know who needs to hear it, to know they're not broken, they're not alone, etc. When social media began, I was in college. I am dating myself. Yes. And this has a point. Social media has a point because social media is kind of what has changed the landscape of airing dirty laundry to be. Facebook was my, it wasn't the first social media that I had. MySpace, I guess, technically came first, and I don't remember how I was using either of them. But Facebook was the first social media where I began by design voicing opinions, because at first I forget the initial, actually I joined in college, and I forget what the prompt was, but it was something like arena is dot dot dot, or I am dot dot dot, and you're supposed to fill it in with feelings or where you are at. I'm at a party, I'm at the dorm, whatever. But then I guess came like what's on your mind as a prompt. Either way, quickly it became a scrapbook of thoughts I would get, from political, societal, to things I noticed in my inner circle, family, friends, things I may or may not have said to the people or person in question, or thoughts that got formed due to those observations, triggers, etc. It was liberating, or so I look at it now that I've been almost 20 years removed from it. Well, actually 5 years removed from Facebook, 20 years removed from that initial experience. The need for it increased. Keyboard warriors became a thing. I never thought I was one, but it for sure is much easier. Let's be honest. It feels a whole lot safer than saying something in person to in any circumstance. So I guess I am a keyboard warrior. I don't really attack other people, but I do voice opinions, grievances, thoughts. And I would say I'm a keyboard warrior, not so much like I go on someone's page and I talk badly about them or I put them down. I'm a keyboard warrior as far as like fighting for the things that I believe and fighting for the things that I observe that don't sit well with me, in that sense. However, what kind of keyboard warrior you are, you might be the person who's like trying to tackle all the negative people out there. I don't know. But it is, we have to admit, much easier to write behind the computer, behind an internet page, whatever you think or want to say. And I would argue that it is not as bad as it might be portrayed more and more. I recently learned that there is a study that is kind of proving that the positive effects of UV sunlight are far greater or far more important than the potential negatives like cancer and so forth. Therefore, yes, do not burn yourself, but also get enough sunlight on your skin, in your eyes, so forth. Like have enough exposure and not always use sunscreen. That's what I got from it because sunscreen blocks that. So be careful with what, I guess, sunscreen you use. Be careful with what times of day you go out and how long you stay. But get a little bit of sun because the potential positive effects outweigh the potential negative effects, supposedly. So I would say that's kind of the case here as well when it comes to keyboard worrying. 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 And I think a lot of good came out of that, out of keyboard warriors. Sure, should we pause for sound? That's really low. That's like a jet. You might not even hear what I'm talking about. There's there's an airplane that just drove by, flew by. Yeah. So yeah, so I think a lot of good came out of this. Sure, there are the bullying instances. Bullying has happened for a long time. I don't know if age old thing, but for a long time, and it will, no matter what, it will find a way to exist. Like apply new means to get an end. But the instances and the people that take it too far, the attack on others, etc., those are not everything. And it might not even be the most. Or I for sure don't think that it's the most stuff online. But again, I think back to, is the positive outcome outweighing the potential negative? But there are also words of wisdom that might have not reached most people, that it has as a result of social media. Relatable feelings that we'd otherwise keep to ourselves. We learn to see how similar we all are, etc., etc. We learn to see how our inner worlds were often the same and not that different, filled with insecurities, quirks, feelings of unworthiness, shame about, I have a story about that, embarrassing parts, thoughts, pettiness, hatred, love too. So I have a story about shame. Did not write this down. This is impromptu, off script moment. I remember. Oh gosh, now I forget her name. Naomi Watts. Yes, I remember her being on Ellen DeGeneres. Let me like relax into the chair, off script. So I remember Naomi Watts on Ellen DeGeneres. I remember her sharing a story of how when she was little or younger, she would sit in the bathroom on the toilet and having imaginary interviews with the likes of Ellen or whoever was at that time. I think during her childhood there was that one guy. I'm sorry, I forget his name. I never saw him. Johnny Carson. Way before my time. But yes, and I remember that moment so specifically because that was something that I used to do, and I was so ashamed that I thought if I would tell someone this, it would make me look absolutely crazy and absolutely shameful. Like I should be ashamed of myself. There's something wrong with me for doing this, for playing pretend, especially into like college, not college. I don't think I was doing it in college, but definitely high school and maybe college too. I don't know, but definitely into high school. And then she shared that, and it became something that made me realize: A, we are not as humans all that different. We shouldn't be ashamed of as many things as we are. And B, was that really a big deal? No. When she said it, it made me also think like that's not something that's awful. Like it's just whatever. I don't know. And so it stuck with me as a way to remind myself like just share, just put yourself out there, put whatever experience you have out there because you don't know who is going to reach, who might otherwise have negative outcomes because that message did not reach, that mirror, that hey, I'm like you, did not reach, you know. Back to this. So, social media gave me a platform. It gave many of us a platform that we otherwise wouldn't have had. Instagram, YouTube, now TikTok, social media after social media, our world expanded. We were able to connect as one humanity more than ever before. It comes with challenges, and we are babies in learning how to deal with it, but it helped us connect. As I said, it gave me a platform. Things would hurt me and I would speak on it. I felt slighted, I would speak on it. Politics, why am I like I have a weird accent right now. Politics felt like gaslighting, I'd speak on that. I shared my sorrows, my pains, my moments of pure joy and of love. Oh, I have so many things that I was so excited about of or these little moments, and that's what I'm trying to do with Instagram now. These little moments of like sunlight in the grass, or I would come home on the bus when I used to take the bus, and it would just be like this like the way the light hit the seat next to me that was empty and the cloth, and I don't know, I just was always fascinated by that. And I'm trying to get that back. It was exciting. It was seeing the world around me, seeing the little things, appreciating the little things. It wasn't just airing my grievances and talking about what bothered me that someone did or whatever. And I wouldn't even say it that specific way. When I would say something, like if someone did something that hurt me or that made me triggered, which I now know is to mean trigger. At that point, I didn't. I would take it and I would kind of reshape it into a more universal pondering question or meaning. And so it wasn't directly like, this person did this and that sucks. It was kind of what people do with poetry or lyrics in music or music itself or painting, like take but more so directly when it comes to like verbalizing the same thing that was verbal to you or something, like you express it. I've experienced this with songwriting. I would write songs and I would start from a very literal place, and it would just transform because I would find a beat or a melody and it would transform like, well, I have to write more because this is just like one verse or one phrase or whatever. And I would just suddenly be taken into this world of this particular song that may or not have much close relationship with the initial real life experience, you know? And at first I was like, I'm a very literal person. If you know me, you might know that, you might not know that. It bothers me. Like if my family, for example, if my mom would say it's 11:30 when it was 11:28, I would be very, very triggered. So I'm a very literal person. I don't know what wound that is, but it's a wound. I believe it is from the fearful avoidant. Long story on that, but even though I'm a literal person, and it would bother me that I would produce something that was not exactly literal and exactly authentic, or like it wasn't exactly true to the original inspiration, but it was authentic in the feeling of it and the message of it and the experience of it. Even if it was like half sort of made but I can't even take credit for it. It was almost like it was coming as a just kind of a generalized concept. Anyways, so I did. I shared all of these things and more, and I shared many tears, especially on Facebook. I was an open book. I remember in 2017, which is close to when I last stopped. I would cry a lot on Facebook. It looked ridiculous, and I can totally understand why why it would look that way to anyone. But I didn't care, because I'm like, who cares? No one cares. I didn't have a boyfriend. I didn't have friends. I mean, I had friends, and this is the tricky part. This is what I'm talking about. I had more friends then than I have now, and I had more friends when I was speaking on the experiences and the hurts and the grievances of those friendships than I have now. So that's an irony worth looking at. And I wonder how many people, if you are like, hold on, that rings a bell. Hold on, let me evaluate this for my life. And it hits and it is like exactly like that to you. Let me know below, because I suspect this is not just me, because it's never just one person. But yeah, so I shed many tears. I remember I was into this one guy. in 2017. And I remember even shedding tears about that not becoming anything other, not even dating. And I remember even specifically saying, because at that point I had done a lot of vlogging, so I was pretty comfortable with just airing all the dirty laundry and not being very filtered at all. And I had a mission to not be, because everyone seemed to be. Everyone seemed to put the positives, the good sides. But yeah, and I remember feeling like, whatever, who cares? And just being honest, I didn't even have a plan, and I didn't even think like, oh, I need everyone to see this, or I need no one to see this. I was just like, I have a platform for expression, period, the end. And I remember shedding these tears and saying, I'm not even sad that this guy doesn't want to date me, or we don't, you know, we're not working out or whatever. I'm just sad because when will it be my turn? When will I find someone who does like me? When will I find my person? And I expressed that. And it was before my current boyfriend, and I remember thinking, squirrels with bells? That was odd. I remember thinking, one of the criteria of my current boyfriend, of evaluating that relationship or my attraction to him or to having a relationship with him, one criteria was, is it like that, or do I actually like this guy? Is it because I just want to be with someone? And I've been there. 2015, I've been there. 2015, 16. And I was very honest about that with myself, that it wasn't. It was actually too real, too raw. My feelings and my, like, attraction, whatever, pull towards him was unfortunately not that. And I say unfortunately because you get into relationships and it becomes more than just being responsible for yourself. And that's eventually kind of what made me shy away from social media. And I started this like social experiment with myself of, what if I don't post? What if I don't? I'm so off script right now. What if I don't share everything? He is very private. He is someone who was the opposite. What a shocker, because we're attracted to the opposite. The people with the same wounds or fears that have learned to cope with them in the opposite way, which is why many people who connect in a romantic way butt heads. But anyways, another story as well. But yeah, I not because of, just because of that relationship and because of him, but yeah, part of me, because I was always told like, Arena, you're sabotaging, you speak too much, you say too much, you are too transparent, who's going to feel comfortable with that, blah 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 blah. I mean, I was like the very tiny speck version of Taylor Swift, because people have said that about her. I have a Taylor Swift episode coming. Don't get your panties or boxers in a bunch, because I have thoughts about that person as well, or the persona that she has, at least. But anyways, and so I got off social media. But before we get to that, let me let me backtrack a little bit. Actually, this is sort of what I'm starting to talk about here. When I went quiet, and why? When I met my boyfriend, current boyfriend, I was already primed for that to change completely to the opposite. This is such a like a right angle turn. Donald J. Trump had gotten elected against reason. Now, whether you're pro or against him, I'm not advocating one or another in here. This is a politically neutral podcast so far. We'll see. But this is really like, when you say against reason, even he and everyone would say like, he had no, and I say this, he had no political career. He had never been a politician. He came out of nowhere and he would say whatever and he still won. And up to that point, you couldn't just do that. At least like in the past few presidents that we've known. With a history like my peoples, aka the Romanians, my Romanian inner circle raised caution. Arena, don't post political things online. It is not safe. And they were cautioning me obviously for my well-being, and having been and lived through a communism dictatorship sort of thing, where whether or not Trump or whoever is that, the idea being if you criticize the government, you don't know how in trouble you might be. Just be careful and not say anything. And with Trump at that time, I don't remember things being this drastic as they are now, but at that time I think there were like inklings for people who like started seeing that. They were inklings of, yeah, don't speak up, just be quiet. Yeah, and we all know is, oh gosh, that's complicated, but again, let's not get into that. But yeah, well, I guess it kind of is related, because what I wanted to say is like it's complicated, right? Because if you speak up, then you can have your safety be in danger, like your physical self be in danger and not be safe. And I'm not talking necessarily in the US, but I'm talking like at any time in any political place when you criticize people in power. Because that happens in many places in the world. And so you have that. On the other hand, you also have the history of the, World War II era, where people realized if we would have all spoken up sooner, maybe we would have prevented so much horrible disaster of mankind. Oh my gosh, I just saw a chipmunk. Oh my gosh, that's so cute. Sorry, that was so bad timing, but it was a cute chipmunk. And so, like, balancing those two and having the courage to sort of see yourself as not that important in terms of like the bigger picture of humanity. We recently had a couple of people that were sort of an example of that in, was it Minnesota? I don't know. Sorry. And yeah, I mean that. Yeah, it's complicated, right? But that's where kind of discernment comes in, and also I think it's an age old question. Like, I don't think there's an answer, and I don't think I have the answer for this. I guess the question that I'm posing to everyone with this is, can you be sure that you're better off choosing the silence that you chose? And are you choosing the silence from a place that will not shrivel you up as a person to yourself, as well as ruin the things that you are trying to protect by your silence? Because that's the thesis statement. So yeah, so they were saying, please don't post political stuff. It's not safe. Caution, caution. They knew the potential of what things could become. And when we started seeing seedlings of the hatred that had been overlooked or understated up to that point, the isms, right? Well, not just isms, but including like homophobia or racism of all sorts, and just people hating on other people, the anti-abortion becoming just like, just let's reduce all women's health and all of these things, right? Anyways, so yeah, so this isn't a political episode, as I already stated. This has nothing to do with him or whatever side you're on. I see this just to set up the scene of my perspective that led to me going from someone who was an open book and someone who would say to my detriment just everything and be transparent and vulnerable, or that's just not what you do, type of thing, maybe not to my detriment, of I went from that to buying into you don't air your dirty laundry, to someone who shut up, who went under a rock and lost not just herself in the ironic twist of it all. I lost the, not I guess my relationship that much, but I think the relationship was not helped by it, ironically, and the friendships were not helped by it either. And before I go on, and I think I put this in just because it's at the top of my mind saying that, what I mean by having lost friendships, and at that time, criticizing. Again, I wasn't criticizing friendships directly. I was criticizing them indirectly. If you've ever seen, not Pride and Prejudice, oh gosh, oh my gosh, I can't think of the play. Hold on. It was with Colin Firth, one of them. Ooh, I don't know why. Maybe The Importance of Being Earnest. I think that's the one. Yeah, that came to mind. I think that's the one. So, see what I mean by this one? Yeah. But yeah, if you've ever seen The Importance of Being Earnest, I there's a scene that I love, but a lot of it is in this spirit where people talk. Can we pause for the light? Can we get the tree back? They were actually having tea, I think, outside or something like that, and there were two women, I think. They were insulting each other, but they were speaking so nicely. And it was almost like, did the other person get it or not even? And even if they got it, they would dish it back in the same, like, oh, the nice weather, that is these days. That's not what I wanted to say. I wanted to say how nice weather we are having, and I said something else. But yeah, but that with the tone implied something else, and with the context of knowing, like, I know that you know that I know that you know, type of stuff. It was communicating so much more subtext than what it was spoken. And so I would like use that style because it wasn't about hurting people, whether directly hurting them because they would hear my words, or because I would hurt them indirectly by other people feeling bad, looking badly on them. It was more so speaking something that I observed. I always kind of had this feeling that I was not that important in a way. Like, we all feel important and we all have that ego part to us. But I also felt like I'm here to do something greater than my time on this planet. So that's where I was coming from. Like, these things that I was observing and I was feeling and then I was processing and they were like coming back out, just like someone who writes poems or lyrics or whatever's books on things, on personal experiences, but they come out sometimes more or less literal. They they have so much positive impact on the greater humanity. It makes us think, it makes us reflect, as either the people in question or just people that might know people or like think about all that stuff. So that's where I was coming from, always, always. And my boyfriend, when he first landed on my Facebook, he has told me many times how confused he was. And because he saw, like, you're clearly speaking or writing so other people can read it and think about it. But if no one sees it, no one likes it, no one is interested, no one comments, like, are you even doing your intention, your purpose? And I'm like, yeah, because it's not, oh man, I need to get back to this person that I was. It is not my job to convince you to listen to me or to like me or to believe or to agree with me. My job is just to be the vessel. Things happen in my vicinity, to me, next to me, whatever. I pick up on them like, ooh, that's interesting. That stings. That's exciting. That feels really good. That feels really bad. And I process it through my particular set of internal processes and I spit it out as food for thought, I guess. That's kind of been my process. And I understand how people, like with my last episode, might take it more like literal or different than that. But that's basically what I'm doing. That what I'm like, I just feel I have a compulsion to do. Like, I feel like I was just kind of created for it. Not to get into that bucket of things. Oh my gosh, the sun. All right, I guess it's here to stay. Anyways, So what I mean by like losing friends or having friends more then than now, it's like ironic because I was saying things more what could potentially be perceived as attacks or as like, ooh, this person like doesn't like me or is so negative or whatever. And yet I had more friends then and less now. And what I feel like is different is now when I stopped airing that, one, it became more literal, it became more direct, and also more avoidant many times. Because, like I said, it's so much easier to like type it out behind a screen, especially when it's not so literal and you can get away with saying things that are more like the general idea of it. And another thing, when you say it directly to someone, so either you say it directly and that impacts negatively your connection, or you, because most of us don't know how to deal with it on either side, the sayer or the sayee, the receiver or the sayer, how to communicate in those situations and how to probably like resolve, things in relationships. But the other part of it too is, what if you don't say anything? You don't say it online, you don't have an outlet for it, you don't say it to anyone else, and you don't say it to that person. Because I also don't like gossip. I don't actually like, despite of my last like 300 some days, like I don't engage in like gossip, the girly like bad talking about other girls or the boyfriends or this. Like I tried that out recently and kind of bit me in the butt. And also like okay, cool, that was an experience because I do have that wanting to experience everything that life has to offer to an extent. But oh my gosh, this the sun is literally on my face. All right. But yeah, I bonded with one girlfriend that I had at one point exactly on that we never were those people and never liked it. And like it just makes me feel really icky that people are out there doing that all the time. It was interesting for a little bit, and I could understand the addiction that came with it. I could understand how good it can make you feel in that moment. And it kind of morphed into, I would say it and then I'm like, okay, I'm good. Like, let me dramatize or what. Let me make drama first. Like, let me say it dramatically first, and then I'm good. And I can't take credit for that phrase and that thought, but I definitely was like, yeah, perfectly said. But then it also made me feel bad even after that. So, yeah, but I am someone who can't not see things and pretend that they're not there. I just don't like to do it in a nasty way to like make something mean about that person, like, oh yeah, they're like horrible people because XYZ, you know. Oh my gosh, I thought that was a human being, but it's a squirrel on the the fence. Sorry. Anyways, so I think it's very interesting to think about the effects of not saying something, because then you end up with a whole bunch of resentment. And that's really interesting to sit with, because you don't know how toxic resentment is and you don't know what truly it feels like, and it is, because we have this caricature version of resentment that is really blown out of proportion to what you experience every day. And every day it just kind of builds up and you don't really notice it, and it's this little thing and that little thing. And it's not that people slight you necessarily. Resentment can be, in this case, you're not expressing what you need to express, and you just like, okay, I'm gonna shove it down and that's it. And it doesn't actually go anywhere, and you still have it, and you end up treating those people differently, interpreting those people and what they do differently and what they say differently, and so forth, and other people that are not even related to that person. Like, I think that I've become, and I've found myself in a place where I'm highly taking things highly personal, which I used to never do. And I think that comes from that. So it's irony. It's like ironic twist, like I said. Let's get back to this. The story that started it all, and reclaiming my voice. Well, I don't know that I am reclaiming my voice. I guess this is kind of that somewhat. I should check to see if you're still recording. We don't have much time. The battery is low. Okay. So, but I think we are halfway, folks. We are halfway or more. So, the story that started it all, I was at my peak social media communication at that point. In winter of 2015 2016, I had a very short lived dating stint with a guy who left me with a gaslighting type of way, in a gaslighting type of way. This is gonna drive me crazy. I'm gonna try to, like, we're gonna relax a little bit. Um, so, yeah. He was saying basically, and I wrote this, but I think I can say this better than I wrote it. This guy who dated his cousin, I guess that's a dig, but it's also fact. He was really good looking. And he came, I was working somewhere, he came in one day and we went on a date shortly after that. I think the first date was his birthday. That cousin ended up being there. It was really awkward. I'm like, what am I doing here? What? I don't. I got that, that red flag going off. The red alarms. Like, I shouldn't be doing this. This is weird. Why did he bring me here as a first date or here at all? Why is he putting me in that situation? But anyways, but I was like, hey, I'm not looking. I was actually more or less freshly, like, it was a few years into not deciding, not wanting to have kids. I didn't want to, I didn't think that I was made to get married or anything. But I wanted to experience what a relationship, like a classic relationship, was like. And I didn't know that this guy would not give me that experience, but I was like, let's date. I don't date. I'm not into dating, but let's try dating out. And he was there, so I was like, okay, cool, cool. Anyways, long story short, I think we dated maybe a month, 2 months. We were going from like mid December, mid December to I think it was. I don't think it was a bee. I think it was a fly that just ran right into my face. I don't know where. It's like this gap in the stream. Yeah, I think we went from mid December to like mid February, beginning of February, because for Valentine's Day I had gotten him some things. And then we broke up maybe a week before that. I don't even remember, but it was like around that time. So it wasn't a long relationship. I 100% did not see him as the one. He was 23, I think, 24 at the time. I just turned 30. I was like, this is a fling if I've ever seen one. And Arena doesn't have flings, but this will be her thing, her fling. And I was taking it seriously. Like, I wasn't seeing anyone else, and I wasn't like using him, but I wasn't taking it seriously like, oh, we'll get married. It was just really nice and enjoyable, and like, it was kind of the experience of like, what is it like, when a guy likes you and wants to date you, and what is dating like, and going to the movies, and him coming over, on his way home, stopping by where your work is, and like bringing you some food or just saying hi. So because he did that. Anyways, so when he broke up with me, uh he basically said something along the lines of, I'm breaking up with you. I don't want to, Arena, but I'm not ready, and I think you need to find someone who's ready to get married and have kids. And the reason that I say that was gaslighting was because he brought up kids. He knew what amount of kids he wanted. He wanted kids. And the only way I figured he had a way to say that was because of my age. I was just turned 30, and it was the not classic, like, oh, someone's so like nice, classic. No, like the cliche thing to say or to assume about a woman turning 30. But I specific, like, as I even said it at that point, but I think we already talked about it. Like, I specifically wasn't in that space. That's not what I wanted, what I was looking for, what I was thinking. What are you talking about? Another friend, a mutual friend, then said the same thing to me. And I was like, what the heck? What are you talking about? You especially know me much better. Like he and I, this mutual friend and I felt like connected a lot more. Like we would talk a lot more and just open. We played like that, not pickleball, but whatever. I don't have time. Anyways, had so much fun. So that hurt. And then this other friend who was older, he, so I met them. This was this was a super foolishly delusional arena. I went after we broke up. Again, it was like around Valentine's Day, like because it was maybe 2 weeks after it was Valentine's Day or that week. I don't know, but I went to surprise him, and it was he was with these two other friends of his skiing, and I was like, I'm gonna win him back or whatever, even though 100% I knew this guy wasn't the one. I wasn't trying to win back the love of my life. And I knew that. And that's why when people have said things about me and my current boyfriend, like, oh, but, maybe you're just like, at the beginning, especially, love blind, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, I know. Because every time when I've liked someone, I knew very well they were not the one. Like, whether or not you insist on holding them. I think that was my attachment style, like not wanting to be abandoned, especially in that way where you're making things up and you're twisting things around completely the opposite of my truth. That's what like sucked. And that's what I was like trying to like, you know, correct or something. But yeah, anyways, so I met up with them and we were in, I don't know who was driving one of their cars. And this other friend of his put his phone number forcefully into my like phone. He texted himself from my phone. And I was like, okay, let me make something clear that just because his friend doesn't like me doesn't mean like, oh, okay, next, because A, I'm a human being, I have real feelings, etc., etc. B, even though that guy wasn't the one, I still had real feelings and real involvement in a dating situation. And two, I'm not gonna just go through the friend roster. The other part was like the guy was like, I don't know, selling used BMWs or something, and uh just a lot with his family, which like that was one of the pluses on my current boyfriend's side of things. Like I really loved the closeness he had, or it seemed like he had with his family. He does. But yeah, it was, I don't know how to explain it. Either way, didn't like the guy. I was like, let's meet up. Let me tell him that I don't. My body started attacking me. I started feeling as if I had an allergic reaction, and I didn't. And it was interesting. What actually happened, I think it was like reflux and some other things, and I learned some like somatic, like nervous system situations that feel like you're having an allergic reaction, but you're not. It's complicated, and it's like I'm not even going to go into it because like do not take this as medical advice. So I'm not going to go into the symptoms, but basically it was bug. It was a reaction, but yeah, and it was my I don't know why it like really wants to be like next to me. I got my Romanian out. But yeah, so because everyone was speaking for me, everyone was putting words in my mouth and feelings in my heart, I guess, and another plane. And I don't know how to explain, but that is one of the worst things, and like very close to full gaslighting, to the actual gaslighting, right? Because like you're basically told your reality is not real, and you said the grass is green, but the other person says no, you actually said the grass is blue, but you know that you said it was green, or whatever. So that's kind of that. And that, ironically, at that time led me to start vlogging. Let me catch up on where where I left off. Oh wow, I did go through a lot. Oh yeah, thank you, and I'm sorry to Kay. You know who you are from acting class that I read. Our one acting teacher had us like write a monologue Supposed to be, I think, 2, 3 pages. I ended up, or maybe not even, I ended up making, I don't know, 5 or 6 or more. And the guy stayed, and I was the last person to go, and I was so nervous, and he stayed. And we are supposed to write something to a traumatic experience of our past. It shouldn't have been close, too close, but like distanced enough. And I thought this was a great one. So, Kay, this guy in class was the partner that was just supposed to like represent that other person. And I don't know what he thought about me in that moment, but I will tell you that he was extremely respectful on the surface. So I can't speak to what was in his heart if he judged me and he's like, this crazy lady. But on the surface, he was very kind and respectful. So thank you. And I'm sorry for putting you through that. But it helped a lot. So yeah, long story short, I started vlogging. I felt like these guys were telling my story, making things up, taking my voice away, erasing me and what I actually thought, felt, and was. So I got on Snapchat at the time. A friend told me about Lily Singh and Superwoman, so I started watching her vlogs as well. And I didn't enjoy her main content, but I really enjoyed her vlogs so much. I learned new possibilities of expressing, of not being erased, of having my voice heard. So I started awkwardly. I started very awkward. I and anyone that knew me would have never thought I had in me the courage to post videos online for the world of my thoughts. Is although I think at that point I had posted me singing online, even though I had always been told that I have a horrible voice, but not with my face. Oh, that made too much of a difference. I remember how it felt so unnatural to speak out loud, to film myself, to be without filter. I remember the need was so much greater though than any fear of awkwardness at the same time. But yes, initially I started on Snapchat because this guy would communicate with me on Snapchat and that was kind of the thing and it was you could see it and it would disappear and you could also see if anyone would screenshot it so it felt safer. Oh, by the way, that guy pretended he was crying and sent me a Snapchat one night pretending he was crying over breaking up with me. I feel very fully confident that he was not actually crying, that he put fake tears. Long story short, and why I know that. Anyways, but soon I transferred to YouTube. I even wrote some lyrics on some melodies I found online about the relationship or how I felt. Over dramatic, of course, because that's art sometimes. Um, I do have here, I miss songwriting, which I do. But yeah, and that's how I made a promise to myself that I will speak from my voice, that I will be myself, unfiltered, authentic, that I will be transparent, that I will just create, just do it, became my motto instantly. I remember telling myself that right before my first topic video, like non vlog video. Oh, and I put here, I miss her. I miss me back then. I gave her up to keep myself from getting hurt, in theory, from not losing the guy I started dating a few years later, from being a more palpable friend to others, a more palpable person. I don't know, palpable. Is palpable the word? Like more easily digestible. Um and things made it harder among other personal things. Wait, what? Oh, politics made it harder among other personal things that got me completely off Facebook to stay true to that, to like speak up, to speak out, to just be unfiltered. And burnout stopped my content, or so I called it lately. Burnout for years, but it's been years, so I'm not sure exactly if it is burnout. To be adult, to be a grown up, to do what other people say is good to do, is respectable to do. That's what I started doing. And the effects were a huge science experiment. I self signed myself up for myself. Do you know I can't even dance anymore? Wow, I sounded so robotic because I wrote this, but I wrote it on Friday and today's Sunday. But yeah, do you know that I don't dance anymore? It's so weird because I used to move so fluidly or, like I had flow. And now I do that awkward what Americans call the white person dancing, like just can't really move or like guy dancing. But yeah, it's kind of like a stuttering or just like awkward and just losing flow with your limbs. And yeah, I don't like, I can't like move my um like hips. I don't know. It's interesting, but I'm getting it back a little bit. But yeah, I used to not stutter. Now I do. I used to not yell. Now I do. I used to not be petty. Now I am. I used to feel confident. Now I don't. This thing, my family with the best intention told me, don't air your dirty laundry, turned into something that has killed pieces of me that now I'm struggling to find again. That didn't help me keep anyone or anything. And honestly, lost my self-respect of myself. That's redundant, but yes. Um, I'm not richer, I'm not financially safer. I'm not less likely to get fired or let go or lose my job in any way, including me walking away from jobs. I'm not less likely because I feel like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming. I can't do it anymore. I'm not less likely to lose a boyfriend or a friend. It didn't get me closer to my loved ones, but actually further. And it's interesting, I think. I honestly haven't thought about this until maybe just this past week, or well, actually 2 weeks ago, maybe. Quitting the thing that was supposed to drive people away drove people away more. Um, I've never been so severed from community either, nor so severed from myself. So explain to me why. What's the incentive for me to be the good girl, to smile, be polite, sit quietly? And I'm not saying that I need to be vicious, but maybe a little bit savage. Maybe I need to speak up. Maybe me speaking up doesn't keep me from being abandoned, disliked, outcasted, because, speaking up is not necessarily putting someone down or saying something negative. Sometimes it's saying the thing that is inconvenient to be heard. And it makes my head spin further when I see others building platforms and lives and multi-million-dollar businesses on just this thing of just being very outspoken in many different ways. And that's not what I'm after. I just wanted a platform for my voice to not be hijacked. And I did want to touch others with no, wait, what? I did want to touch with other voices? What am I saying here? And to connect with people who needed to know what I have to say. Think like, yeah, touch others, touch like, no, I don't know, whatever. That will be taken out of context. But anyways, connect with other people who needed to know what I have to say, who needed to see they're not any more broken or bad than anyone else. And I mean, like, not that everyone is bad. I mean that everyone's kind of in the same boat. And that's what I mean also by connecting with people that needed to know what I have to say, not because it's me saying it, but because they need to hear that. And I may be the person who experienced and is able to express it in that way that other people hear it or something, just one other voice. Um, Someone who might be going crazy thinking something false about themselves, someone who needs to see someone out there is like them or shares a thought with them or a feeling or an experience or a perspective. So it got me this past week. Wait, do I have something else? No, okay, yeah. So it got me this past week that I started being so afraid to live out loud. I have here all caps, I'm not gonna yell out loud. And it not only didn't keep me from losing people and things, but it cost me myself. And I guess I haven't really gotten into that, and I'm already wrapping things up. But yeah, the me that I liked her. I was a better human in many respects. I was more love, less hate. I was triggered less, ironically. I was more tolerant, ironically, and had more kindness and less judgment. I took things less personally or not personally at all, but you'd think that it was the opposite. Because when people don't speak, or they smile in your face, or they only say good things in your face, or they highlight the good things they do, and they don't air their edges and dirty sides, you would think that, oh, this person is such a good person and they're better than me or they're better than this person. But you don't know, just because someone is airing their dirty laundry, you don't know the other person that has or does not have dirty. We all have it. And I guess my thing with the last episode was very much kind of coming from this place. It's interesting how fakeness has become virtuosity. We are supposedly more tolerant just because we don't point things out that annoy us, that trigger us, that hurt us, that doesn't sit well with us, because we don't have moments of like weakness, of breaking, of judgment. And the more that, again, the more that I think about where I used to like express things, I was expressing things in a much less hateful way, a much less petty way, a much less charged way. Well, I don't know, charged, but yeah, it was less about the person and more of an observation about a human being and humanity. And so I think that is something to sit with. I hope that made sense. It might not. Let me know in the comments if it didn't. If you need any clarification, I might make another accompanying video to make the sense. But yeah. And then I have a little landing, little tidbit. I was in the park when I was writing this, and it was a beautiful day, kind of like this. And people were like playing football around me, calling me lady. I'm like, oh gosh, that stings, stings. I'm not ready to be a lady. I'm still wanting to be a girl. But, anyways, so I wrote, on this summer evening, I'm writing this at a park next to my boyfriend's place. Something in me felt an overwhelming urge to drop my things off at his place and come out on a bench or on the grass. I ended up on the grass and sit and write. I feel a spark of myself. I feel a spark of being alive, less depression, anxiety, and rush, and also more connected with humans and how good we actually are. Because I forget that in these world circumstances and what social media has become, those things exist. The moments where when people share something very vulnerably, either that they feel ashamed of or that they feel inspired by, and it hits other people like right into their soul. Like, ooh, I can relate to that. And I think that's beautiful. And I think that's worth the darker side of that, the unfortunate other side of the coin of social media, of us being connected and sharing. If you think about all the wars, all the things that are happening, we know so much more directly. And there's, yes, people say there's more misinformation because everyone can post anything online. And now with AI, true, but we have more voices. Whereas before, we were only hearing what a select few people decided we should hear. And it is in our like necessary skill set, I don't know, need to learn discernment, to figure out what is and what isn't real or pertinent or what is manipulative. Because just someone like sharing something about a war zone or something does not mean that they're trying to manipulate one or another. And it doesn't mean that they're not. So, yes. And then this particular part. Oh, and I was going to go into depression, anxiety, but I think my camera is probably stopped. I don't know. But yeah, I had a lot of like loneliness that I just briefly glossed over at the beginning, but I've been feeling very, very lonely. And it's not necessarily the amount of people that I have or that I talk to. It's not alone, it's loneliness. And I think it's because I'm not connected to myself anymore. I've driven her really down to make myself digestible to other people because I don't wanna be left. I don't want to be a bad person, I think, at the end of it too. I wanna be good, and I want people to see that, and when I feel like they don't see it because of things and how I, like, am perceived, how I put things out there, that bothers me, and, but then I'm like, it can also be used against me because if I speak up, at least you know things. But if I don't even speak up, yes, you don't know things, but you can also make things up about me as a result too, to yourself or to others. So there's that too. But yeah, I will leave you with this. As I was writing this, there was a guy that joined. There were like two people throwing a football, and then little kids that were like running. Anyways, somehow they kind of merged these two groups, and I guess one of the kids got hurt by the football, either by the guy or whatever. And I don't know what it was. I didn't see, but I suddenly hear the guy asking, like, "Are you all right?" And the kid doesn't respond, but kind of like, "Yeah, it's fine, whatever." And he just gets into position and he's like, "No, no, but this is important. It's okay to not be okay." Actually, he said, "It's all right to not be okay." And that to me was beautiful, and something got in my eye and it really bad me. But yeah, that to me was like, because to be there and to hear the sincerity and hear the moment that guy took to make sure not only that the kid was okay, but that he learns this very important lesson that it's okay not to be okay. It gives me goosebumps even now, and this is not the breeze. So I will leave you with that. Life and people are not that bad and not that messed up, and life is beautiful. So yes, peace, love, and compassion, and keep questioning. Bye. Thank you for episode 2.